One sec. I hear we're muted.
Okay, go ahead.
Are we good? Oh, there we go. All right. So basically, we've taken out the chat or the interview, and we've replaced it with what we want. We want to get guys asking us questions. So into the YouTube, you can ask us all kinds of questions if you want. And Craig is in the back. He's monitoring this thing. He is also playing Warzone and eating lunch. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, let's get going here. Also, the top question of the day is going to be sponsored by Gong Show. We're going to hand out a Gong Show sauce-off game. Matthew, ready?
I'm ready.
It seems like it's a giant ball of flames at the moment. So anyway, topic number one, and that is tonight is brought to you by sportsinteraction.com. The NHL is in Vegas tonight. So let's bet. Go to sportsinteraction.com/WALLYANDMETHOT. Here we go. The Vegas Golden Knights take on the Montreal Canadiens. It's the focus going to be in Canada, obviously. How does Montreal steal game one?
How does Montreal steal game one? Well, I think everybody had Montreal written off for the last two rounds, at least I was. So at this point, when it comes to making predictions, I don't know that I'm the best man for the job. But in any case, I think if you're Montreal right now, it's very simple. They match up very well against Vegas, and I really like their defensive game. I think that's the difference between them and Colorado. Colorado is willing to trade chances and relying heavily on their speed and offense. Montreal doesn't play that way. They're known for their goaltending and their defensive structure, and you can expect them to play just that way, especially against Vegas. Now, Vegas, there's an argument to be made. They've got pretty darn good goaltending as well. Probably a more well-rounded decor when you're including the offensive angle to it. But if you're Montreal, it's just puck management, because Vegas likes to score off the rush. So if you're Montreal, you have to play a boring game, almost kind of like the Islanders, where you're going to sit back, wait to pounce on opportunities. You're not necessarily always going to score on the rush. You're scoring by committee. If they can get their top line, Danault, Gallagher, Lehkonen, if those guys can start contributing, and even Anderson. I mean, I'm waiting for this guy to have a breakout round. He was pretty good there earlier on, and I think he kind of faded in that last one. But, that physical presence, if he can be that X factor for the team, Price continues to play really strong. We're going to have a series here. And at first, I thought it was going to be a cakewalk. I thought, going into this, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, if Montreal was going to make it into the third round, how would they fare against one of these teams out from the West? I thought they'd get walked, but that's not the case now. Honestly, I feel like I'm pretty confident in Montreal and what they're capable of. And defensively, if they can stay within themselves, they'll be just fine.
Brent, you good?
Okay, so let's go with the defense of the Montreal Canadiens. We've talked about it all season long. If they get Jeff Petrie back, can they concentrate now, and can they focus?
Sure. Well, right now, I mean, and I can speak on this just from my hand injury when I played, and I know what it's like to have to grip a stick with a broken finger. Now, from what I could see, just watching the video, you could see Petrie's gloves have been manipulated where they've kind of fused a couple fingers together. That makes it incredibly challenging if you're trying to handle the puck. And never mind the pain. The pain for me is the biggest thing. Every time you handle a pass or make a pass or try to clear the puck out of the zone, whatever it is, it's going to hurt him. So what kind of player are you going to get out of Jeff Petrie right now? I don't know. It all depends on how he's feeling. The word is he's going to be playing in that first game. So, if he is playing, and from what I understand, he is going to be playing. I don't know how effective he's going to be, but, you got to be tough to be able to play through something like that. So I'm sure they're going to be injecting him. He'll be in the back room. The team doctor's going to come in. They're going to put a couple injections in his finger. It's going to numb it, but that also takes away from your ability to handle the puck. So again, that's a big loss. We saw it with we saw it with Toronto when they lost Muzzin. It's the same scenario now where it's your top D-man. They fared pretty well though in that last round against Winnipeg. So they can handle it. I just worry long-term through a long series, the effect of losing a top four D-man who logs 23 minutes a night, that can hurt you.
Okay. There's a couple of big matchups, and obviously we'll start in goal, and that is obviously Carey Price against Marc-Andre Fleury. Marc-Andre Fleury needs 4 wins to move into third all-time in playoff wins. It's phenomenal.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
Who has the edge in goal? Does it go to Carey Price, or does it go to Marc-Andre Fleury?
Carey Price, there's no question, especially with the way he's playing right now. And I don't even have to think about it because Marc-Andre Fleury has been known eventually to come out with a gaff game, right? Like he's not always maybe as steady as Carey goes. I know Carey Price had a bit of a tough up and down year, but from what we've seen and the way he's been playing here in this postseason, you can't bet against him at this point. If you're talking between goaltending and who's going to have a better performance, I mean, you got to think that Carey Price has the edge. Fleury is incredibly capable. We all know he is. He's got a very good team in front of him. But with Montreal's defense and that big four back there and being able to clear bodies out in front of Carey Price, who just looks so steady all the time and calm. He doesn't waver from that.
The Vegas Golden Knights almost finished first in the National Hockey League, right?
Yeah.
And now you're trying to tell me that Carey Price and the defense of the Montreal Canadiens is better than Vegas. I can't fathom this.
Defensively, they are. There's no question. They're bigger, rangier, and they've been just stronger around the net. And then with the way Price has been playing, I mean, you can't listen. Vegas, I know, is much more well-rounded. I have them winning the series. I still do. Although I'm starting to have my reservations based off how all these other rounds have been going. I've been pretty well wrong about everything. So if you're a smart betting man, you'll bet exactly the opposite of what I'm recommending. But again, I just think when it comes to that defensive play in front of the net mixed with goaltending, I still think Montreal has the advantage, especially if Petry's healthy. But again, you could argue it all day long. I just like the makeup of that back end.
But I find Vegas just more mobile on the back end, and Shea Theodore is completely underrated. They've got Alex Pietrangelo. Like they've just got, I think they have weapons that people seem to overlook because they play in Vegas, they play in the West, and all the East media and all that does not pay attention as much to how well they're built.
But we pay attention to it because we know how good Vegas is. Yeah. We've been talking about them for most of the year, and we even brought up at times questioning that North Division and how really, how are they really that good? But I think at this point, and Bergevin had a really nice presser the other day, kind of addressing that, where he says, I don't buy into all that stuff. We had to beat very good teams to get to where we are right now. And it's anybody's, it's the playoffs. As we all know at the NHL level, literally anything can happen. So I'm not going to count them out.
You're watching the WAM show live, brought to you by Barrhaven 40K. There is another matchup that I think is interesting in the game within the game, as we like to call it. Max Pacioretty traded to Vegas, one-time captain, played 10 years for the Montreal Canadiens. He's going back to face his old team. And the guy he's traded for, Nick Suzuki, is playing. I mean, they both have 8 points. Yeah. So you can go to sportsinteraction.com/WALLYANDMETHOT and bet on which one of these is going to finish with more points in the series. So whoever you're taking, I'm going to take the opposite because that's probably what it's going to play out.
Yeah, because you just want to argue with me. That's what you want to do.
Who is going to finish with the most points in the series?
Okay. Stone Pacioretty and Chandler Stevenson play more minutes, not by a lot, but they do play a little bit more. And if you're going to go with them as your favorite, obviously I'm going to have to go with them as getting more points. With Stone and Pacioretty and the chemistry that they've been showing, even Stevenson has been playing really well. I got to go with that line. I just think so. I know I got nothing but respect for Toffoli, Caulfield, and Suzuki. I think they're a fantastic line. They're dynamic, and they've proven to be big game players. I only question what the effect they're going to have in the series, especially playing away in Vegas in front of that huge crowd. They're younger guys, maybe not necessarily as used to that kind of pressure with a loud crowd, hanging over top of you. I think that's a bit of a factor. But again, like we've seen with Caulfield, and he's proved it throughout his career, he's a gamer. So I don't like to bet against them, but seeing as I have Vegas as my favorite to win, I'm going to go with that top line. They play more minutes in Stone, Pacioretty, and Stevenson. I'm going to have them hanging up on top.
All right, last thought on this series. Remind everybody again how many games you've taken Vegas in to win this.
I don't even think I can remember. I think I had Vegas in 6. Does that sound right? I'd have to look at my bracket. It's underneath all these papers, but yeah, I've got Vegas. I'm sticking with them. Again, I'm starting to get a little nervous because deep down, I think part of me wants Montreal to win. So I'm very conflicted.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to watch. And so I've got Vegas in 5. I'll probably get the hate mail. It's okay. But I just think that they're too powerful. We'll see if Montreal can continue. They've won 7 straight games. They haven't trailed in 7 straight games.
It's crazy. But and I said this, Wally, and I know you would agree, if Montreal can play their weird, stingy defensive style that they've been playing, almost kind of like the Islanders to a degree at least, that's going to be frustrating if you're Vegas and you can't get something going. And I heard a couple comments as well. if Montreal can get that early lead, statistically speaking, I mean, they're likely to win that game. So again, I know Vegas is different. There's no familiarity between the two teams, but that's what makes it so exciting.
Just, I just placed a bet on Saturday that Mark Stone will win the Conn Smythe Trophy. So we'll see how this plays out. And then I might buy you a beer. Those are our bets. Go place yours at sportsinteraction.com/Wally and Methot. All right. You mentioned the Islander game. Let's take a look back now at Tampa Islanders game 1 in that series. It's so weird to call it the semifinal after, a lifetime of calling it the Conference and Wales conferences, the Campbells and Wales conferences, right? But anyway,
sure. So
we're into the semifinal. And Meth, I will admit, I savored this win with a Whitewater beer, knowing how much you've taken Tampa over the Islanders. I was so excited to see the Islanders pull out this win. By the way, go to WHITEWATER.CA, use the Wally Methot coupon.
Wally, you're only picking the Islanders because I picked Tampa, and you're trying to be different.
No, hold on. Here, I don't know if we've had this discussion before. When I grew up, I was a Mike Bossy New York Islander fan. I hated Wayne Gretzky, and you hated Wayne Gretzky. I did. I didn't appreciate how good he was.
That might be the worst take.
No, it gets better. So I was a goalie. I had a black Coho goalie stick for Billy Smith, and I would hit people who came through my crease. Okay, here we go. I named all my stuffed animals after the New York Islanders. So my big blue dog was Billy Smith. I had a baseball manager, called him Al Arbor.
Billy Smith is cool because he used to fight guys. Like some of those, you ever see some of his scraps where he's like shooing away D-men because he wants to go Lanny McDonald? It's pretty cool. Anyway, no, I respect that. And again, for me, it's like, I think if you for most people, it's how do you bet against Tampa? I mean, obviously that first game last night was unprecedented. No one really saw that coming to a degree because we're talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning, but we can talk about all the reasons why I think they lost. Okay,
let's first start with that forecheck. Like you say, you're surprised that they lost. The Islander forecheck was on, like they were all over.
No,
Tampa had they just couldn't handle the pressure.
If you're watching the game, you're not surprised. You understand how it happened. But what I'm saying is going into the series, I think most people had Tampa as a heavy favorite only because of that winning culture they have. They know how to win, blah, blah, blah. So I think for me, and it all started with that Stamkos turnover, and I know we can nitpick on it a little bit. And I know it's not fair because it's one play that they happen to score on. But as a seasoned veteran, and I'm talking about the first goal scored by Barzal in the first period, and Stamkos got sat after that. He didn't play for like 6 minutes until they were on the power play in that last minute of the first period. So, for me, it's like if you're the captain on a play like that, it was such a casual play that was very uncharacteristic. Well, maybe I shouldn't say uncharacteristic because he has been known to make those plays, but like the backhand play into the middle of the ice and then not even acknowledging it and then just going off the ice, to me, as a player on the bench, that's a no-no. And so I can understand why John Cooper didn't like that. And, and that kind of sets up the tone for the rest of the game, if you will. When you see a captain make a play like that, you're almost waiting for him to do something about it afterwards when he gets back out there, which is why I was a little surprised he was sat. Because as a player, when you make that mistake, I've been there. When you make a glaring mistake like that, you don't need to be told when you get off the ice, quite frankly. I mean, oftentimes, especially if it's costly like that one, you can get off the ice and you've already known you've made a mistake and you cannot wait to get back out there and prove yourself again. So for me, I thought that was very interesting. I'm not going to question John Cooper because he's an excellent coach.
But no, we are. To me, so I'm going to question him. So what's the benefit of sitting your captain in a playoff game where who scored 50 goals in a season or whatever it is? Because
it creates a distraction. So all the guys on the bench now notice this. They all know. Right. Hey, Stammer's not playing, and it's not something you want, mind you. You'd like to think a veteran group wouldn't let that distract them. But for me, I didn't like the play, obviously, at first. I think you would expect better from Stamkos, so it's understandable that Cooper doesn't like it. And we're hammering so much on this topic right now, that one specific play, because to me, it was very much a determining factor for the rest of the game. You're sitting your captain for the last minutes of the first period, then you throw him out there because you're desperate to have a goal on the power play. And then, that mutant D-man Pollock scores that clapper from the point in the second period, and all of a sudden it's 2-0, and that's a goal that Vasilevsky needs to stop. Like, I know it's a hard shot, but it's a wide open point shot. So again, my takeaway from the game was just as you mentioned, Wally, Islanders forecheck. Not just that though, but their ability to just sit back, that Barry Trotz defensive style where they sit back and it's so frustrating. They're just waiting for you to make a mistake and then they pounce all over it. So there's some learning stuff here. And another really good point was they only took 3 minors. I think it was 3 minors. Oh yeah. So that's a game plan.
Tampa was 1 for 2 on the power play.
Okay, well there you go. Well, 1 for 2. Okay, well in any case,
they scored with a minute to go in that. I mean, it did create a little bit more anxiety.
But if you're Barry Trotz, like your team did exactly what you asked of them: stay out of the penalty box, right? Play very good, clog the neutral zone. Don't let them get too many entries. Like Tampa struggled on their entries too, on the power plays they got, which
they had no room.
They had no room. They were being suffocated. So that's. So if you're Tampa right now going into game 2, you're frustrated and you're going to have to find a way to get some offense early and kind of feel good and confident again.
And the Islanders, 61% of faceoff trust. So their puck management, as we like to call it, was off the charts, right? So if they can continue that, is Tampa in trouble? And I know that they're
for sure they are. They're in trouble right now. If you're looking at the numbers and just the way they played, this isn't like the Islanders stole this game, right? This is a situation where they absolutely earned that win. So for me, your confidence right now, if you're in that group, is through the roof. Now you know, okay, we belong here. We can actually beat this team. So they're going to be emboldened and they're going to be going into game 2 with a ton of confidence. They're going to stick to their game plan because they know it works. They've seen it firsthand, obviously. They're in a really good spot. So for me, the pressure's all on Tampa. The Islanders are still technically the underdog, but they're almost kind of playing with house money. I don't like using that term because I'm sure they all want to win, but for me, it's all on Tampa at this point.
Okay, so you get to choose between playing for the Islanders or Tampa based on who the coach is. Which coach are you going to choose?
That's easy. I'd love to play in Tampa because it's warm. I mean, I look at some of the tans on these players, especially like some of the guys that were playing for Florida, like in Fort Lauderdale. I'm so envious of that. But if you're looking at it purely from a neutral standpoint, forgetting about where they're playing and the tax stuff, and you just want to pick and choose, I'd play for the Islanders only because it suits my game more. I don't have to rely on lucky defensive plays to break up rushes because I know at least on the Islanders, my forwards are coming back and they're creating that back pressure and they're very defensively sound. So that would make me look better as a player, almost like when I played for Guy Boucher in Ottawa, where everything was just automatic. My role was simple. I knew what it was and I could apply it. Whereas in Tampa, there's a bit more free range among the forward group. And so you're going to be caught more on 3-on-2s and 2-on-1s, odd man rushes if you're a D-man.
Did you ever play for Barry Trotz? Did you have him at the Worlds one year? No,
I don't think so.
He was an assistant coach one year, but I can't remember if you were there.
I don't think so. No, I definitely didn't. No.
Okay.
So I couldn't, but I know I played against him a ton when he was coaching in Nashville when I was with the Blue Jackets, and his teams were always a nightmare to play against.
Is this one quick question? Is this almost the semifinal where coaching really matters, where you see a difference of how intricate everything becomes and everybody's fairly matched up pretty well, that coaching and how you deploy your systems really makes a difference?
Well, you look at the parity across those 4 teams. Once you get in towards the end, all the teams are fairly well balanced. Now, in their own right, of course, some teams are going to be more offensively dynamic and, but I think at the end of the day, it does become a chess match, right? So if you look at the coaches that are left, aside from Ducharme in Montreal, of course, but they have a ton of great veteran leadership in that group too. And Ducharme in his own right has done a good job. But otherwise, you've got all these Jack Adam candidates and winners that are coaching still, right? And so is that a coincidence? It could be to a degree, but I think it does matter because we're seeing it firsthand now. Look at the upsets that we're seeing. And a lot of that is just tactics and coaches structure that they've applied to their groups. I mean, the Islanders are scoring by committee, but they're playing so defensively sound that, I mean, they're giving themselves an opportunity to win every game.
Yeah. On Thursday's show, last Thursday, we said we'd make a bet on this series. And I know I'm up 1-0, but I still feel like you're pretty confident in your Tampa pick. Let's put a case of Whitewater beer on it.
Sure. Yeah. So you want to put a free case of Whitewater beer on this bet?
Well, you use the 15% off coupon. It's much cheaper.
All right, cool. Sounds good.
Done. By the way, don't forget, keep asking your questions. Apparently, Craig has now moved on to dessert, so he is ready to start to pay attention to the show. So keep continuing to send in your questions either on hashtag WAM Live on Twitter or using the chat on YouTube. Also, just a reminder, the WAM Show Live is brought to you by Barrhaven Ford, which has recently introduced its all-star lineup of custom builds. It's the Barrhaven Ford Customs. Barrhaven Ford has brought in Roush-inspired custom F-150s, Rangers, and Mustangs to the nation's capital. At Barrhaven Ford, they built the truck or the Mustang or the Ranger the way you want it, customizing each truck or Mustang to fit your individual needs. Go to barrhavenford.com/BFC Customs and get started on a beautiful build. All right. Topic number 3, brought to you by BEI, Bonnechere Excavating Inc., helping to build this show and helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. So, Meth, we talked about coaching and how important it is at this level. We also talk about there's a playbook you get at the beginning of each series, or you get it almost for every game, right? When you go in and have meetings and whatnot. What's in a playbook for a series that's kind of different from the regular season?
Ooh.
How detailed are they?
It depends. And it depends on the team you're playing for. Like, I still remember playing against the Red Wings back in 2009, I think it was, or I forget the year. God, it's bad. I'm having a brain fart here. But I was in Columbus playing against basically an all-star team in Detroit. We ended up getting swept that series. But I remember still leading up to the series, Hitch gave us this long booklet with so much information in it. And then he was very detailed in what he does. But I can still remember being very overwhelmed by it. Now, I was very young and I was a rookie, so that might be part of it. But generally speaking, it's just a handbook. You get every series, and it's details on every player, their tendencies, where they like to score, where they're vulnerable as a group, where goalies are vulnerable. It's pretty insane how much info you're given. So I think it's important as a player that you just kind of, you go through what really applies to you mostly. So I'm not really going to be too concerned as to where Vasilevsky's are vulnerable, right? I'm not a goal scorer, but I'm going to be paying attention more to, where does Stamkos like to sit on that little top of the circle for the one-timer positionally? What are their tendencies on the power play? Who do they like to pass to more often? It's pretty in-depth, and there's a lot to take in. But I think if you're a player, you really are just looking for vulnerabilities among the lineup. So players that are potentially injured. So maybe so-and-so has a bad shoulder. I'm going to make sure I finish my checks on him. And, be extra hard on so-and-so at net front. And those are little things that I'm going to look at if I'm a player. But I think at the end of the day, it's more just too much information is better than not enough. So they're going to hand you this huge book. You're kind of going to graze through it a little bit, pretend like you've done your homework, and then move on. Kind of like the way I used to study for exams in school. Granted, that never really worked out in my favor. So I think now, if you're a player and you've been around long enough, you're fine. It's not a big deal.
Is there, like, if I were to see your old playbook, would there be a bunch of doodle marks and tic-tac-toe?
Are you kidding? Doodle marks? That would imply that I had a pen in my hand, like I was doing something. No, I mean, after that day one that we were handed the book, it probably would have ended up in the back seat of the car. And don't get me wrong, we do so many meetings as well. That entire, 4 days prior, like from the regular season to that first round, especially, you're doing systems work on the ice. You're doing a ton of video meetings to the point where you're catching yourself falling asleep almost. It's very intense, but at the end of the day, it's, for the best of the team, and it usually works out.
All right. I quickly want to bring up something that just kind of came up, and that is Dougie Hamilton from Carolina. Oh, yeah. Right. He's become a pending unrestricted free agent. He's allowed now by the Carolina Hurricanes to start shopping around and seeing what he can find out.
So what's the question?
He's a right-handed shot, Meth. He makes 5.75. He's scored 10 goals or more in 7 straight seasons. He's 27 years old. Is he the guy that's going to be next to Thomas Chabot to start next season?
Okay. There's a lot to unpack here, because that's assuming that Ottawa wants to pay, probably 8 million at least, probably 7, 8. I'll be generous and say the higher end is free agency will be 7, 8 million. Is that fair? Maybe.
Okay, but so let me put it to you this way. Is he worth more than Thomas Chabot, who makes 8 million?
Well, it depends, because when Thomas Chabot signed his deal, this is another argument that I'm sure we're going to get into, but I still think Thomas Chabot is underpaid. I'm going to say it. I think that Ottawa did a really good job signing him at what they signed him for, because it's a rear loaded deal, which is ideal for the Sens. And what is his average? 8? It's probably around 8 million a year, I think. Yeah. So what does that look like in a couple of years? Especially for a guy who's playing 30 minutes a night, like literally your team's MVP. and potential Team Canada, Olympic Team Canada member on the back end. I mean, so if we're going to be looking at all his accolades, that $8 million number for your best player isn't terrible. So Hamilton as a UFA will probably make between 7 and 8 a year. I could be wrong, but he's got pretty darn good numbers, right? So, I mean, if you're him, that's what you're looking for. And if you're willing to go to Ottawa, you're not taking a haircut. You're going to want to get paid. So at the end of the day, it's, you're going to go to a smaller market team, by the way, which I love dearly, but let's be honest, it's a small market team that's still kind of coming out of a rebuild, if you will. Mind you, it's an exciting time for the Ottawa Senators. I don't know that Dougie Hamilton is too concerned about that and where the ceiling is at. I don't think he's even really paid attention. So yeah, it's an ideal situation. If you can get an all-star player like that to play on the top pairing with Thomas Chabot, or even on the second pairing, but ideally on the top, on the right side, you've got an unbelievable first pairing, probably one of the best in the NHL. So,
okay, but can you justify paying him more than Thomas Chabot?
Why? There's nothing to justify if it's if that's his market worth, then there's no argument. But it comes down to if Ottawa's willing to pay him that, right? Like for me, I don't know what the situation in Ottawa right now is as far as finances, but I mean, if they're willing to pay him, and so your concern is what? You're scared that you're going to be paying another player more than your captain?
Well, now he's your captain. He's your MVP and he's your captain.
Okay, sorry, I jumped the gun there. Okay, sorry. I don't know that he's the captain. Sorry, I'm not trying to play favorites. I know. It could be Brady. I'm saying your most valuable player.
Yeah. So my point is, are you saying then that you will sign somebody else for more money if you think Thomas Chabot is your best player, or at least your best defenseman? Does that bother Thomas Chabot?
Probably not, because it'll only empower him, and he'll only have it's to his advantage. Imagine having a 6'5", rangy, skilled puck moving defenseman, top 4 D man as a D partner, as a steadying presence. Like, come on. I mean, it's a no brainer. But again, none of this conversation makes a difference if the Sens don't want to pay the man, right? So who knows? It'll be interesting to see what they do.
I'd like to see him. 607 career games, 341 career points. I mean, he plays 22 minutes a night or whatever it is.
He's gotten better too. Yeah, he's a good player. He is a good player. Anyway.
All right. We'll move on. That is brought to you by BEI. Now, time for the Faces magazine. We're going to talk a little bit of different. We're going to head off the ice here. We're going to talk some different kind of sports, if you will. And so, presented by Faces magazine. Check out their latest articles at facesmag.ca. First of all, there was a Euro 2021 is taking place, and so it's captivated the worldwide audience. I mean, the scale of watching Euro is massive.
Yes.
Who are you taking to win Euro? Do you even pay attention?
I do. And I played, a lot of people don't know, is I played Division I soccer for years. I played for the Ottawa Royals. I mean, was I an incredibly game controlling midfielder? No, I was usually playing striker, but I relied on my athletic ability, and I played a lot of soccer, at school as well. So I was pretty lucky to be gifted in that sense in a lot of sports as a kid. But I've always been interested when it comes to World Cup, Euro Cup. I just find it interesting. I'm not a huge fan of having to deal with all the obnoxious Italian fans in Ottawa this time of year. And I can say this because a bunch of them are my buddies. All of a sudden, everybody becomes Italian nationals and huge soccer fans. And it's just to the point where I'm like, oh, come on, man. Like, even guys that might be half, French Canadian, half Italian, well, they immediately gravitate towards the Azzurri and not the French team. I'm going to play that game right now as well. Okay. And only because I have an opportunity and they happen to be the #1 favorite in France. I'm going to pick France just because, first of all, I am a bit of a fan, especially when Zidane played, of course, and he was the team captain before the headbutting incident. But right now they're a heavy favorite, and they've got a couple big guns. Like they've got Griezmann and Benzema that are coming in right now. I think they just announced two of their top players are healthy. They were injured, and they're already the favorite as it is. So I'm going to be watching that carefully. And again, not trying to hate on Italy or Preston Street, as everyone, the Ottawa viewers
sounds
know.
like it. Yeah.
But like when the flags start coming out and everyone all of a sudden becomes right off, from Italy, it's like, come on, man, like just stop. Anyway,
I'm gonna dust off my Ferrari and get downtown. So there's a big Mark Methaldo. There is a big Germany-France matchup tomorrow. I guess you're going to take France
3
in this
p.m.
one. I'll
Yeah.
take Germany. Like
You're
Germany's
just doing, yeah, and they're a good
like
team.
top 4. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're
I
really
think they're a
good.
top
I
4
know.
favorite or something.
Yeah, it's. Oh God, I didn't write it down. It's France, England, and Belgium. England, Belgium. You could argue wouldn't flip one
Yeah,
over the other.
somewhere
I'm not
there.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's a good tournament this year, and I do. Going back to what I said earlier, I love that Italy's involved. There's a lot of buzz around the team because of the ability they have to score now. So it makes it more interesting only because I'm hoping that at the end they get buried by France. But none of that matters. I mean, I'm obviously a casual when it comes to it, very much so. I'm a seasonal soccer fan, but it's exciting. It pulls people together. Everyone's in. Like you've got teams from anywhere from Croatia to France, obviously, and everyone gets involved from Ottawa. All of a sudden, everybody comes out of the woodwork and is a fan of soccer again. But it's something to cheer for despite the times we're in.
Get your questions into WAM show, or sorry, hashtag WAM live. Also in the YouTube chat. We're moments away from Craig finishing up his meal, and we'll hopefully wash it down with a cold beer after. Okay. There was Euro 2021 obviously started with that scary moment on the ice with the Denmark Christian Eriksen. It's like I was obviously shaken watching it, but how the entire team wrapped around and basically protected him. Like you could see how well everybody adapted, and the fact that, the captain came over and started CPR.
Right.
The whole, I mean, I guess as a professional athlete watching that, what's going through your mind?
Yeah. Well, and yeah, so that was the incident a couple of days ago where it looked like Denmark was playing against Finland. I think it was Finland.
Yeah. They lost 1-0 to the Finns.
And Denmark had the ball, they had possession, and they were just throwing it back in from the out of bounds. And Eriksen was sort of like running and then kind of stumbled and just literally collapsed to an unconscious state on the pitch.
Yeah.
And so they flip him over, and you could see it on the replays because I missed it in real time. I was just busy with the kids running around, and then I had to like rewind it. And he's looking there like kind of lifeless, and his head happened to be turned towards the camera shot, and you can kind of see the doctor performing CPR, and he was moving to that rhythm. It was really disturbing. And so the first thing that I could think of when I was sitting with Ellie, my wife, we were like, imagine like what's going through his wife and kid, because I think he was married, and he is married. And I can only imagine what's going through their minds, like family members watching that at home, right? Like that's, wow. So yeah, if you're a player and it happens on the field, it jolts you, especially if he's unconscious. I mean, I've seen some really gruesome plays. I'm trying to remember that play where we had a fight. Was it Dizzy? What was Dizzy? Dzerzhinsky?
Oh, Dave Dzerzhinsky.
Remember when he got knocked out by Colton Orr? Was it Colton Orr?
Yes.
No, it was McLaren that fought. One of the guys, tough guys in Toronto, knocked him out, and his face smacked the ice. Like that still resonates with me now. And he was knocked out temporarily. It wasn't to the degree that we saw the other night in the collapse. But just speaking on that, like it's hard to continue to play after something like that happens, because you're out there playing a game, right? And all of a sudden a teammate of yours who you know really well is unconscious.
Yeah.
And it's disturbing, especially when you're watching it happen off a fight. To me, that's more disturbing. But in any case, they did a really good job, though. They suspended the game that we saw the other night against Denmark and Finland in the soccer match. They suspend the game. They finally come back out when Eriksen came to, and it just goes on. But yeah, like how you bounce back from something like that is really difficult.
I never watched a second of the replay. I didn't want to see 1 second of it. Like you're almost frozen. And it's like, I can't imagine if you, like your wife or anybody else as a family member, like, you can't prepare a family member to watch that. No. You can't prepare like to watch any of those, even the John Tavares, any of that stuff. Like that's the stuff that you always you forget outside of the family. Like you're sending it on Twitter, you're posting it everywhere. Yeah. There's like family members that are deeply affected by all this.
Yeah. And the Tavares thing is a really good example, because remember those friggin' the pictures,
the headlines,
the headlines the next day. And it was like a disturbing shot of him with the eyes rolling at the back of his head.
Yeah.
And I could just think like his wife obviously sees that, because every person in the world is bringing it up to you in conversation that day, right? Like, hey, did you see this? And, and it's hard to distance yourself from that information. So that's one of the brutal parts of kind of being in the public eye like that, is that there's no really escaping it. It's just how you manage it after the fact. And you get used to it, but there's nothing that can prepare your family members for stuff like that. It's just the way it is.
Moving on to some happier thoughts, shall we? And something I thought of the other day, it is summer. We're now getting vaccinated. People are planning vacations. So I started thinking, where does the Mark Methot family, when you were a kid, where's Dad Methot taking the family on a vacation with your brother Matt?
Dad Methot ain't going anywhere. You can't pay me. You can't pay me money to go somewhere as a family right now. Well, I only say that because my kids are so young that it's just more work. You know, once they get for those listening, before everyone thinks I'm like the Grinch, my son is 3.5 and my daughter's turning 2 in September. So, you know, I don't want to take them anywhere and have to deal with that. It's too much work right now. So, but if I could go anywhere, like alone with my wife for a few days, you know, anywhere that involves a beach. I'm a beach guy. I like the white sand. I like the salt water heels. But yeah, man, I'm not I
going see you at Mooney Bay.
Mooney's Bay. Mooney's Bay. Are you nuts? Between the high levels of E. coli in the water, like why would anyone go there? I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a nice place to have in Ottawa.
Don't get me wrong, but don't swim there.
But it's cruel because I used to do the Hope Beach volleyball tournaments all the time. I used to have a team in there because I lived across the street of my last house. But like you're sweating all day, like you're exhausted. All you want to do is cool down. And it's cruel because you're looking at the beach, the water. And you know, if you touch it with your foot, you're going to grow some weird mutant fungus on your foot. Like it's dangerous. So, you know, it's nice to have as a jewel in Ottawa, if you want to call it a jewel. But I mean, you can't even go in the water. It's disgusting.
Please tweet at Mark and not at me, please. There has been no incidents of
I'm allowed
anybody
to say
with
that.
a fungus on their foot that has gone to Mooney's
Hey,
Bay
listen,
in water.
If there's anybody that can speak on Mooney's Bay, it's me. I grew up there. That is my hood. You know, I grew up in that area. And all my friends were there. We used to go to Mooney's all the time, but I can tell you this, we never went in the water. We were usually going to Terry Fox or Mooney's Bay Hill, where my dad would make me and my brother run up and down the hills training, but we would never go in the water.
Okay, well, as per usual, you ignored my first question, and that is, where would your dad take your family? And when you were a kid, like, what was
my
your
dad wouldn't take us anywhere.
Come on,
my dad. My dad came one time with us. We went to Mexico, and I was like, I would have been like 12. But the only other like destination vacation that I've ever gone to, which I still remember, aside from the Mexico one, would have been Disney World with my mom and my aunt, my mom's sister. And we went to Disney World. Loved it. My brother and I, my brother was 8, I was 10, perfect age because we remember everything. Parents get so hung up on bringing their kids places when they're like 4, or 3 or 5 years old. Like, it's dumb. You don't remember a thing. Like you remember nothing. You've just created work for your parents. Like wait till your kids are at least
a miserable child at 7 o'clock at night who's tired and wants to go to bed because they've been there since 6 a.m. waiting in lines.
Exactly. So we can agree. Wally, you and I are on the same wavelength. It's so true. And again, credit to parents that want to do it. Good for you. Good for you having all that patience. But for me, it's like, I debate even going to my cottage. Like, we have got a cottage outside of Ottawa. I still haven't gone there because it's like, all it is me sitting inside the cottage like this, hands on my knees, looking out the window, salivating, knowing that my boat and fishing rods are at the end of the dock, but I can't use them. You know what I mean? So it's like, what's the point? Just wait till my kids get older.
Can't you get a life jacket?
Yeah, I know. I can take them out now. I'm obviously being dramatic. I'm just saying that usually taking your kids away when they're very young is usually more work. I think we can all agree on that.
I'll wait for the invite to the cottage.
Don't hold your breath.
I know. I'm feeling this a lot. So when I was, I want to say 6 years old, grade 1, and there's 4 kids in the Wallace household. I was the youngest. We took 6 weeks and drove to Florida and drove back and stayed in the same hotel in Florida for 29 days.
What?
It was like, I can't imagine what that would cost in today's world, but I had to take homework with me. I remember doing homework while we were in this hotel room.
How old was the youngest?
Me. I was 6 to 11.
Okay. That's like, I would be comfortable with it. Mind you, that's incredibly long, but like once, okay, right on. Well, I'm sure you remember it as a good time.
Oh, I remember it. Well, here's what I remember. And I shouldn't even bring this up. Well, it was on International Drive, I think, the hotel. You would drive down and there would be like a strip club, but it was called the Booby Trap. And it was the shape of 2 boobs. And I was like, this is wild. That was the one thing.
But
I've
you,
always remembered
but you
from this
remember it, right? I know.
Yeah, yeah.
Those forbidden places as kids, right? You're like, oh, I wonder what goes on in there.
Yeah, like, it's so funny. Why are they shit? Yeah, I didn't know what it was at the time. Anyway,
Good for you. Good for you.
all right. Now that I've completely done that, let's bring in Craig and save me from this
Gregor,
disaster. Craig,
come on in.
Boys, what's happening? The booby trap. Look at this. This is why we do the live shows. Because I wouldn't have heard that story otherwise.
no,
Oh, man.
probably I
Yeah.
shouldn't have told it. Yeah, go
Yeah, that was fun.
ahead.
Man, I feel you on those young kid trips though, man. You don't take little kids anywhere.
It's
We took-
too much.
We took a baby to Disney. Like it was my kids were a little older, so they enjoyed it. But we took one of our kids, the youngest. He was like a baby at Disney World. He no recollection of what happened. It was so much more work. Just pick the right ages.
Yeah.
Pick the right ages. Book your trip and go. I think we're getting closer to a good one here. Now, anyways, boys, we got a ton of questions coming from the chat today.
Oh boy, bring
wanna
them
just-
I
on.
can only imagine. Okay, how much hate is there right now for meth for the whole Italian thing?
He caught a little for that. You caught a little bit for the I hate Wayne Gretzky story you decided to tell.
But you had to, like, it was Mike Bossy versus Wayne Gretzky. Like, they're two predominant goal scorers, and so they would
Wally,
fight each other out in
Wally.
the cup final.
Yeah,
I
but
wanted the
stop.
Islanders to win.
That's fine.
Stop.
I think just like in retrospect, that's like a very childlike thought. Is that
Okay,
I
but
hate
there's-
Wayne
like,
Gretzky.
There's my signed Wayne Gretzky photo. I don't have a Mike Bossy photo. Okay.
That's okay.
Ugh, whatever.
That's okay. Anyway, so you caught a little for that. There was some people of Italian descent that didn't appreciate being lumped in with mess
You
there. But
shouldn't go out today, Meth.
yeah.
Bring it on.
Don't go out today.
Don't care.
Well, someone with a very Italian last name. Let's just get into some of these questions here.
Oh no.
There's a
Okay,
whole
here we
bunch.
go.
I'm going to pick one as my favorite, but we're not going to do that one yet. At first, I'm just going to ramble through just some of these good ones that I like. You know what, Matt? We were actually getting a lot of Warzone questions, and I don't need to ask all of them, but I'm going to ask one, and it's
Sure.
just who would your dream squad be playing in Warzone?
My dream squad is in like teammates. That I
Yeah, you
play
can
with.
pick. You can pick 3 players, 3 like teammates to join you of any whatever. They can be pros, they can be your friends, they can be other NHL players.
Oh,
They can be our dear friend Brent Wallace, who's never played it before. Whatever you feel.
I'm
Come
gonna go.
on.
I can't like if I pick some random people, it would just be awkward, right? Because it's
Yeah.
online gaming. For those that are listening that don't know what we're talking about, you wear a headset, you got a microphone, and you're interacting with 3 other players at the same time, and you're doing tasks. I would just pick 3 of my close friends that I play with. That's it.
okay.
I mean, I'm it's boring, but I know their tendencies, and we're all in sync.
No, I think that's a good answer too, right? Because, I mean, it sounds like you play Warzone to hang out with your friends, just like kind of what Mika talked about too, right? Like,
Social.
yeah, it's the social aspect of it. So, okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Okay, which one do I want to do next here? Okay, Brent, this one's for you here. Someone was asking if there was any NHLers that used to kind of keep you entertained in media scrums. Like, who would you say
Oh,
was the
yeah.
like funniest kind of jokey media scrum guy that you've covered?
It's usually always the tough guys. So like Andre Waugh way back, or Chris Neal was really good. Martin Havlat actually was very entertaining when we do scrums. Mark Borvietsky was another guy. They were just loose, right? So they weren't always so worried about what they were saying, and they weren't programmed. There's been a few like along the way. But I will say the tough guys are always
It's
at
funny,
the top
Wally.
of the list.
Hey, they're all
Yeah.
just the tough guys, and you could speak on this more than I can. They always end up doing broadcasting. You ever look at like the
Yeah.
color guys that work for teams? They're always tough guys, or like
Tough guys and
types of
goalies.
players.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway. It's just
So I
random
asked,
fact here.
I actually talked to Ron Tugman about that years ago when like there was, I mean, Kelly Rudy, and there was Glenn Healy, and there's been John Davidson and so many goalies. I'm like, why is it goalies make good commentators? And he's like, because the way they see the game, they watch it unfold all the time on the ice in their one particular spot. And so that's what was always how it was put to me, is how well they saw the game, because they were on the ice watching it for 60 minutes that way.
Brent,
Yeah, that's fair.
our mutual friend Sam Cicerello once explained to me that the reason that the tough guys and they do so well at the media stuff is because they work so hard, right? Like those are the hardworking guys. Like they got to the NHL through hard work, not skill, right? Like you're not going to convince multi-millionaire who doesn't need to get up at 6 a.m. to catch a flight to go cover a game. Like that's not in their DNA, right? But these tough guys that have worked for everything, like they put the work in on the media side too. I remember Sam explaining that to me, and it kind of clicked. But that's why maybe
Two of them, I will say, two of the most entertaining stars were definitely Jaromir Jagr and Dominic Hasek. And I don't know if it's what's with the Czechs along with Martin Havlat of why, but they're an entertaining group to be with, and the Swedes are
characters.
entertaining good. But yeah,
They're characters. Like the Swedes are usually drier, a little more
Yes.
like reserved, and the Czech guys are usually much more relaxed. They like to drink beer. They like to have fun. They're laughing all the time, like amongst themselves in the room. That's a takeaway I could relate to for sure.
Jarkko
Yes.
Ruutu, another guy, always entertaining, by the way.
We got to get, he's a guy I think we got to get on the show at some point.
Yeah.
I always love that guy. Okay. That question came from Jake Olive, by the way. I forgot to say that. This one, I hope I'm getting the name right. Woods Goods. Oh, I wonder who that could be. Wally, what's your favorite media meal on the road? Like, I mean, I love that question because there's some really good ones. I didn't travel a whole lot, but as a media guy, I'm sure you saw Adam Woods slide into a table and put a bunch of food in his face. Where's the best media meal in the league?
So it depends if it's regular season or if it's the playoffs, but we'll go regular season for right now. And Detroit is phenomenal. One, it's owned by Little Caesars, so there's always lots of pizza. They have a great Sunday machine. You can put the sparkles on if you want. Yeah, they got salads. Then they've got all kinds of, they used to have like a beef guy. They've got a chef there to slice up some, I don't know if it's pork or whatever, but if it's the playoffs and it's cup final, it is another world. And I will say, like in Boston 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever was in their cup final, they have like seafood day where it's lobster and they'll have oysters, they'll have corn. They've got all kinds of crab legs. Like there's just a buffet of seafood. It's the playoffs is where you want to be when it comes to media meals, no question. And Boston was by far one of the best.
Okay, I like it. How would you?
And I will add, sorry, in LA, an off day cup final, they brought in food trucks to the practice facility, and there was like 3 food trucks. You just walk up and order whatever you wanted. And so I was probably doing poutine, but that was one of those great days. You're like, yeah, there's like the food trucks here are fantastic. Anyway.
Where would you, not to throw them under the bus or anything, where would you slot Ottawa's media meal in to the mix? If it was the standings, would they be top third, middle third, bottom third? Like, where do you think?
Bottom third, for sure. But part of the problem is you eat it 41 times a year.
Yep.
And so there's a rotation, right? But it got a lot better. I will say one time, I think it was Roy Malacker came in, former president, or was it Cyril Leader? It's one of those names like, this has to change. And it got changed and it became a lot better. But it was known as one of the
it wasn't the best.
Struggling franchises in the league. Yeah.
Not that it's crown jewel, but that's okay. Okay. All right. I got another one here. This one is coming from Graham Wise. It's obviously, I think, a little more for you here. And it's, how do you communicate with a D partner that doesn't really speak much English? I know Zub is a guy, right? That like we've kind of talked about and we've heard players talk about.
When I played, a good example of how hard it could be when there's a language barrier would have been when I played in Syracuse. And I had a partner, I think it was Andrei Plekhanov. I think that was the player on D. And we were in Syracuse in pregame skate. And I was our best at the time. And then nothing to brag about because it's in the American League. But I think I was our top D at the time. It was my second year in the A. And so they had me as a project, working with a project rather in Plekhanov. And Zenon Konopka was our team captain. And I can still remember the one pregame skate where I think I was getting frustrated that Plex wasn't like responding well with me. Like we had no chemistry like whatsoever. And it was affecting my game at this point. And I'm like, that my goal wasn't to play in the A. My goal is to play in the NHL. So I'm very competitive, like trying to be the best player in practice every time. And Plex was getting in my way of doing that. And I still remember Konopka coming up to me and he was pissed. He was mad because I was like, you could tell my body language was not good with Plekhanov. So in front of everybody while we were doing line rushes, Konopka and I grab each other like we're going to fight. Obviously, mostly this is Konopka that's engaging with me because I'm like, I'm not fighting Konopka. Like you look at him, he's terrifying, right? And I'm a young player. I was like 20, I think, or 21. And we're going back and forth about it, like yelling, like, and I'm telling him like, and there's a lot of swearing but I respected him for doing that because he's just doing his job. He's a captain. He's trying to make sure everyone's getting along. But And that really doesn't go anywhere other than Plekhanov eventually goes back to Russia and then I end up playing in the NHL. But that's the challenge. And then I ended up getting, but that stuck with me because obviously I'm talking about it still now. So then I end up going to Columbus and I get a defenseman in Fedor Tutin. He was a very good defenseman that came from New York. We signed him in Columbus. He could speak more English, whereas Plekhanov could not speak a lick of it. Yeah. But I learned from that experience with Plekhanov, like, don't get angry, don't get upset. Just be patient. As hard as it can be be patient. So I ended up playing with Toots in Columbus, and it worked out really well. So that was a really good learning experience. But the language barrier absolutely affects your chemistry as a D partner or a line mate if you're playing forward, because communication is everything on the ice when you're calling for D-to-D passes, loose pucks, calling out pressure. So again, you learn from it, and sometimes you just got to deal with that hand. It's not fun.
Okay, that's a good answer. Okay, this one's for both of you guys. This one comes from Blaze in the chat, and they're asking who would win in a fight: 100 duck-sized Brent Wallaces or one normal-sized Mark Methot. So
wait, 100. Wait, I don't understand.
100 duck-sized Brent Wallaces. So they're all about a foot tall, and we got one regular-sized Mark Methot. Who's going to take? Will you be overwhelmed by the rush of Brent Wallaces?
I mean, obviously, 100 Wallies coming at me. I mean, I won't be able. What are we?
Duck-sized. Duck-sized.
I can only punt so many of them at the same time before it's overwhelming. It's like a horde of zombies just eventually kind of overwhelming you. So yeah,
100 is too many.
Wally. 100. You could 20 duck-sized Wallies would be hard. Like, because what if he's biting at my ankles? Then what do I do?
I don't know. You just got to punt. You just have to keep punting.
Maybe. I don't know.
He would be overwhelmed, and unlike the way he plays the
Tenacity.
game, he wouldn't be able just to dump the puck off the glass and get out. He would just be pinned in the corner.
All right.
Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah. All right. I like that one. Here's a good one. Matt, this one's probably a little more for you as well. And it's kind of a memory lane question. They were out watching the Isles game yesterday, and they were wondering what the locker room was like after Pajot's 4-goal game against the Rangers in the playoffs. Like what is the atmosphere like in the room after a guy does something like that in the playoffs?
You're excited. You're beyond excited for him. But I think, I'll be honest with you, all you're really pumped about is the win. I mean, obviously, any individual accolade is great. And Pajot is like one of the most likable teammates you could have, which, if anything, further reinforces my point in that I don't think you care. You don't care if someone scored 6 goals. It's like you got the win. You're already focused on your recovery in that moment. So as soon as the game ends, all you care about is, okay, I got to start flushing my legs. I got to maybe get a workout in if I didn't play a lot. I got to drink a lot of fluids, electrolytes, get a shake in, eat properly, sleep. Like, you're so distracted, in your own selfish little things that you have to do to prepare for that next game that you're not really concerned so much. But again, obviously it was great. The fans loved it. And Pajot was a terrific teammate to have. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, you're only focused on yourself and what you need to do to prepare for that next game.
That was a weird one.
Just happy.
I was just going to say it's an afternoon game, right? Like that must have been a weird. You guys had a couple of those like big overtime wins in afternoon.
I loved afternoon games because you don't have to worry about pregame skate. There's nothing worse.
Believe me, I hear you.
Yeah, the NHL, and it's starting to evolve. But like, especially when I came in the league, like, we're doing these damn pregame skates, and then you're going out there and it's like a full practice, maybe cut 15 minutes shorter than a regular one, but you're going for 45 minutes. Like, really hard for the most part, doing drills at full speed. If you're not crisp, the coach is slamming his stick on the glass. And all I could think is, the NBA does this. It's called a shoot around. And it's like the most relaxed situation you could have. But in the NHL, it's like, I need to figure out how to recover for the game now after this pregame skate. It's very old school. They brought in pregame skates because the old school guys were drinking the night before. And so now it's like, okay, I can understand skating a little bit, but let's get away from that and focus on being energetic for the game. And there's so much put into those skates. I think it's getting better now, but when I was still playing, I mean, there's times where it was puzzling for me. I'm like, why are we doing this? Anyway, that's just my opinion though.
Brent, what were you going to jump in and say? We were talking about the Pajot.
I was just going to say that Pajot, when you score 4 goals, takes all the pressure off post-game media-wise. You don't have to come out.
That's true. Really,
they're not asking for Mark Methot that day.
No. Unless I got a goal or an assist.
You got to come pump his tires.
Yeah. It's funny. I could have a dog shit game, but if I scored in that game, all of a sudden media wants to talk to you. It's like, and then I could have a lights out defensive game where I'm laying guys out. I'm playing really well. Nobody even knows you played that night. So it's sort of the downfall of being a stay-at-home D-man, but it's part of the game.
Okay, I got one for all 3 of us here, and then we're going to do question of the day, and we're going to start wrapping this up because people got to get it to their lives, back to their lives here. Okay, this is for all 3 of us. People want to know what our favorite cheat snack is across the board. We ask everybody else. Boys, what's your favorite cheat snack? Is it still the cheese curds and oil and salt, and it's still a little bit of that?
I'll answer this really quickly, and then I'll let you guys take it.
Yeah.
For me, it's simple. It's either melted cheese curds with a little oil and salt. I still do it to this day. Like I did it last night. So that wasn't a lie. I do that a lot. And then if I'm not doing that, or on some nights I'll have on top of that a little bowl of Raisin Bran cereal. I buy Raisin Bran cereal religiously. I always have some stocked up. And I'll usually eat that around like 8 o'clock at night.
I don't know how that falls under cheat snack, but okay, fine. I guess it's got sugar on it.
That's why I look the way I look, Wally.
What are you saying, Meth?
I'm saying I take care of myself. My body's a temple. I take care of it. Even
So
in retirement.
because I'm not a temple, more of a tent, is I like chips, pretty much all kinds, but hickory sticks are probably number one. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
I
don't mind that. I don't mind that.
I'm on a bit of I mean, it's summer coming up right now, right? So I'm actually, my cheat snacks are kind of moving over toward some of my drinks these days. I'm starting to drink nicer drinks. A little
Bubble
more.
tea.
Yeah. And when I say nicer drinks, boys, I'm not talking, I still dump Diet Pepsi into it like an idiot. So, but yeah, I'm starting to pay a little more for some of the premium rums, and I'm mixing some summery things with Frescas. And so yeah, I would say my cheat snacks have moved a little bit more. I stopped drinking for a while during the pandemic. So now it's like a treat again. It used to be like, hey, it's after 6 o'clock. Now it's like, oh, it's Saturday. It's nice out. Make a nice little drink for yourself. But the other thing, it's not a cheat snack, but I put a big emphasis on making photo quality sandwiches for lunch. Makes me feel better about myself, I guess. I don't know. Like I want a nice turkey, bacon, tomatoes on good bread. When you start doing that stuff, it helps.
There's nothing better than, Craig, I got to give you that one.
Mm-hmm.
A nice sandwich with all the fixings is one of the best things, like for lunch at least. I can appreciate that. Good for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So a photo quality sandwich is not a great cheat snack, but I would say I'm cheating a little more there. Okay, question of the day coming up. This comes from Bring Back Lee, and he's asking Mark Methot, but I think Brett can answer this one too. Would you prefer the new arena downtown or being in the suburbs? And more so, what do you think helps create an environment that will attract more free agents? Like, does the suburbs, like, does that matter? Like when because I know, Matt, we've talked about it a lot. You talk about weather, we talk about taxes, but does arena location as a player, would that be a big factor for you, like trying to land in a spot?
I mean, it helps. If you have a brand new facility, I mean, forget about all the little things. The arena should be downtown. I'm just going to say it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it bolsters all the businesses down there. It's what attracts free agents when they come in. Which I know is not a huge reason to build a brand new arena just for free agents, but that's one of the things that it does. Is as a player, as an away team coming in, you're staying downtown. It's great for all the restaurants downtown as well. People are going from work to happy hour to the arena. You're going to have your light transit down there as well now. So access to and from, maybe the south end of Ottawa or out west in Canada, it's going to be a lot easier now. And you can plan ahead for that. If you know you're going to a game that night, you can maybe take the bus or the light rail downtown, have a couple pops after work. You're excited for the game. You're not worried about traffic with the one on and off ramp to get to and from Canada. Like that's a nightmare. I don't know. That's me from a selfish, personal Ottawa resident standpoint, right? Like me being an Ottawa Senators fan and living in the area. I mean, for me, I would love, even as a player, to play downtown. And then you're getting all the fan base coming from across from Gatineau, from the other side of the river. They're going to be more, maybe inclined to come to the game and watch a hockey game. So to me, I can't believe this is even a discussion or a point of contention.
Yeah, it's a hard one. I like that question because it gets us talking about it again. And it's something I just don't want it to slide off the to-do list, right? Like that's they need it done. It needs to get done now.
It's not getting done. Like, why is this? It's not getting done.
Well, we got to keep talking about it.
It's mine. And again, I don't want to burn any bridges here, but it's
unless you give the owner a free arena, it's not getting done. It's the end of the story. So
we can talk. What Wally just said, we can talk about it all we want, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what makes sense. It comes down to what they decide to do with the team and where they want to move it, and it is what it is. So
yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think I agree with you guys. Is there any benefit for it being not downtown? Like, what are I guess I get home. I can get home in 10 minutes. Yeah, I could see the rink from my old place. Like, that was amazing. But
it doesn't make any sense. I mean, when you're I just want to finish it with this.
Yep.
When you're coming into Ottawa in January or February or whatever in those cold months, and you're in a way on the away team, taking the bus from the airport to the Brook Street Hotel, which is a nice hotel, but it's in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing to do out there.
Yeah.
When you're driving out there as a fan in the snow and you're going down the 417 and there's farmer fields and a Cabela's and whatever, it's like, like it just sucks the life out of you, I think, you know. And so imagine the arena being downtown like almost every other NHL city, and being able to go to a bar or a restaurant or whatever, and then it's just like a different experience altogether. Anyway, again, we're stating the obvious. I feel like everybody knows this. So
I just want to kind of poke the embers a little bit more here. We should get Cyril on sometime and have him tell the story. He told me the story behind, like he told me the story why it's out here, and it's like, oh, okay, like it's not this crazy idea.
Oh no,
like,
it makes sense.
It made sense at the time. It's just now it's like, what's the next? I think we're stuck in this one building.
This isn't us criticizing the fact that they were out there when they got out there. It made perfect sense and it worked. But I think there's so many opportunities now, right? Like, and it's not just LeBret and Flats. They've even talked about Herdman. Like there's a big area there, and that's also a big high transit area. Like it just, anyway, again, I'm not a business guy and I don't know the ins and outs, but to me at first glance from a fan standpoint, I think we could all agree that it makes sense to move it downtown.
Okay. Well, bring back Lee asked that question. That was our question
of the day.
Yes, that was a great question. We got to yell about the arena a little bit more, which I think is always fun. So you scored yourself a Gong Show sauce-off game, courtesy of gongshow.com. We're going to figure out how to get that to you. Don't worry. But you know what? We actually have something else to give away from our last show, the one we did with Thomas Chabot. First off, that was a great show. That was one of my favorite ones you guys did, I think, was that. Where else are you going to get a 45-minute Thomas Chabot interview? I'm listening. It's not out there. So I thought it was great. We pulled one of those, and you're going to score yourself a round of golf with power cards, Edgewood Links, if you were able to answer this incredibly difficult question, which is, which teammate would Thomas Chabot kick out of the car first if he was on a road trip? I think it was with Colin White and Nick Paul. The answer, Colin White. I think that's a pretty obvious one. Shout out to everyone who got it, but especially at Doug Crosby on Twitter. Doug, watch your DMs. We're going to slide in there and figure out how to get you these Edgewood rounds and power carts, and hope you have a blast out there. So shout out to everyone who answered that one. And man, live show, boys. That was fun.
Yeah. Well, before you go, I got one last thing.
Okay.
So I went and got some bone saw sauce, red alert. Now I don't have the super hot final, but I'm going to try this because I've never tried it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes.
So I want to do it at the end of the show, because I don't know if I'll be able to breathe.
Don't be a chicken. I want a good amount here.
Let me see.
Does that count?
You know what though? No,
That's
listen. Okay. I put that on my eggs every morning, Wally. That is nothing. A little more.
Just give me one more little dab there.
It's dripping everywhere.
Let's see it. Show us. I want to see this.
I don't know if I
show the
can
camera.
see that. Oh wait.
Right in there.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it.
Okay. Eat it.
All right. Anyway.
It's not bad.
Now do your reads. That's your job now.
Oh. No, wait. Give him a couple more seconds.
Yeah.
I wanted to really hit him.
If you like this show, please subscribe to YouTube and all those other podcast platforms. Anyway,
you're literally gonna pass out when you do that final boss. Anyway, sorry.
That's that's good. We'll try and do this again next week if we can figure out how to start the show on time and properly. Anyway, thanks for all joining us, especially all the people in the chat room. We appreciate you guys stopping by. So we will see you on Thursday. Current Ottawa Senator and perhaps world champion joining the show. We will see you then. You're watching the Wally and Methot Show, powered by Barhaven Ford, the WAM Live edition. We'll drive on out of here. See you next time.